Hi, Amil. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Guys, this is Emil from A1 AMC. He's probably the largest appraisal management company that we have here at PRMG. And he sees most of these cases come in and out. He reviews them. So I want to kind of pick his brain a little bit. Thank you, Emil. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I know he was up till late last night. You're watching the election.
Absolutely. This was amazing.
What time did you go to sleep last night?
About 3:30 in the morning.
And then I told you to come in here early.
Yes.
um, Look, man, I know that right now we're looking at a lot of people trying to sell their houses, and they're like, "Hey, my neighbor sold this house for I don't know $1 million," and then we do an appraisal, and the appraisal doesn't hit. Like, how often does that happen? Like, how do we determine the value? Can you just elaborate more?
Sure. And I always make this joke with everybody. I say, like, if you go to a used car dealership, not because a Mercedes sitting next to a Hyundai should be sold for the same price. So meaning, like, not because the neighbor sold their house for $1 million should my house be the same, unless they are identical to each other. We get those rebuttal of value all the time where the house built in 1950 and the neighbor was built, in 2023, and they say, oh, my neighbor house sold. It's not. When we select our comparable, we select it based on the amenity, and which is include also the distance from the house, but the majority is the amenity, age, update, bedroom, bathroom, square footage. All this we take it in consideration when we select our comparable, and that's how we arrive to a value.
A question, because I elaborate. We were talking about this yesterday. We went to lunch, and it was like, what if there's no exact comparables in the neighborhood?
Well, we talked about this if you remember yesterday, and this one we call it a little bit complicated assignment. And in this situation, the appraiser will do like a market study. We cannot create a sales. If we create a fake sales, actually we're committing a fraud. So if we don't have in the same neighborhood comparable valid comps to use it for our report, either we gotta go to a different neighborhood that identical to our neighborhood. This is one option, meaning average house in my neighborhood selling for $1 million. I try to find a similar neighborhood. That's the first option, where houses also typical houses selling for $1 million, and I can select my comps. Assuming there is none, I found only inferior neighborhood, and this usually when we try to do history study, what's the difference between the two neighborhood, like average property in my neighborhood selling for $1 million, and the other neighborhood is selling for 800,000. Now I know I have a 20% difference.
Mm-hmm.
And this, if I don't have any comps in a similar neighborhood, I can use an inferior, use those comps, and add like the 20% adjustment across the board to all the comps.
Dope. That's awesome. See, I think that's a very common mistake that people make. Number one, they use comps. Oh, that comp on the other neighborhood is better. But I'm like, if you're in your neighborhood and there's a house that sold exactly like yours in your neighborhood, that's a better comp, right?
Exactly.
But I say there's absolutely no comps, then you get to go outside, compare the history,
Absolutely.
and figure that out. Now, biggest concern that like I had literally this week, we're talking about rebuttals. How do we go about rebuttals?
Okay, rebuttal of value in order. Okay, and we see it again, all the time. They just go to, for example, this area zip code, what the highest sales, they throw it and they say why the appraiser not use those comps. And actually, if I wanna rebuttal an appraiser, for example, if I wanna come to you, you're the appraiser, you use like four comps, and I wanna say like why you did not use this comp. The first, why my comps is more applicable for the assignment. Why should be considered, and this when you have either you have a successful case against the appraiser or unsuccessful. If you can prove that your comps is more similar to the subject property, more applicable for this assignment, and the appraiser missed it, now you have a valid case. But assuming again we go back, you have a 2,000 square foot house built in 1950. The appraiser used like four comps, all of it recent sales, similar age, similar upgrade, similar and everything, and now we bring to the appraiser a comp built in the year 2000. The appraiser is going to say, why should I consider it? A lot of time also, like we see comparable coming, they want to increase the value, probably came below purchase price $10,000, They provide comparables that fully remodeled with the pool, solar system, for example,
Yeah.
in a certain area, and they don't look at those amenity. If the appraiser is going to adjust for every item, is going to lower the value, not increasing the value.
Yeah, we've seen that happen. I
And
mean,
yes, and we always recommend the agent do your home study. If you want to provide the comps, provide a valid reason. And Fannie Mae, they just applied this, I believe, very recently, where they wanted an explanation why those comps wanted to go to the appraiser. For example, has to be minimum, I think maximum 5 comps, their new regulation, I'm sure,
yeah. So
PRMG
the
received it.
comp is that they have to provide an explanation as to why they
Exactly.
believe these new comparables are make sense for it, and it has to come directly from the borrower themselves,
Yes.
or in the case if you're buying, it could be from the agent.
From the
So
agent.
they have to do the study. They
Yes.
have to look at the, and they can't send 10 comparables. They gotta send like the three.
Maximum 5, I believe.
Five, okay.
Maximum 5 and no CMA. You know how they provide a
No.
CMA and they say, okay, average price per square foot, is this much,
That's another question I have for you. So before we go into that, no CMAs. I know a lot of appraisals are doing this and they just go ahead and submit a CMA. Hey, look, the CMA says this. That's not correct, right? You have to literally look at each comp that you're gonna submit, write an explanation as to why it makes sense that this is more like the house that we're looking at. Right?
Exactly. Why the appraiser should take one of his comparable out and replace it with this one, or add, those comps and
Yeah.
give it the most weight in the report.
Yeah. Now, I have seen this, guys. This is possible. I've seen appraisals change their thing. Everybody can make a mistake here and there, or miss an opportunity here and there. Most commonly, there may have been a sale that closed in between that time, and that could have helped you.
Correct.
But question I was gonna ask you, because everybody talks about price per square foot. Like they think they're accurate because they say, hey, this is the price per square foot, and the house is 3,000 minus 2,000.
Exactly.
How does it work?
Okay. As an appraiser, we don't use the price per square foot. In my mind, is good tools for an agent. And before I became an appraiser, I was a real estate broker. I'm still active real estate broker. And the price per square foot can be used if we use it the accurate way. And how we gotta use it the accurate way? Again, when I select, I don't go to the neighborhood and just grab everything and and see what the average price per square foot. If you are close to the ocean, for example, the price per square foot is gonna mix property that are ocean front, ocean view, and interior property. Now, if your property ocean front is gonna lower the value of your property. If your property doesn't have not ocean front, doesn't have any view, it's gonna increase the estimate value. So when we want to do the price per square foot, I always recommend the agent mark on your MLS exactly similar amenity. Like again, let's say my property is 2,000 square foot. I would go to the MLS and try to search like anywhere between 1,800 to 2,200 square foot property. If built in 1980, I will try to search at the MLS property between 1970 to 1990, give it like 10 years age, and for example, I try to look, if my property upgraded, similar upgrade properties, or if it's not upgraded, like similar comps. Now, if I grab all this package and I see what the price per square foot, I can be very accurate. But again, if my house is fully remodeled in a neighborhood that all the houses are dated, is going actually to lower the value. But again, if my house is dated in a neighborhood where it's fully remodeled, most of them have pools, solar, again, all those amenity, is gonna increase, the estimated value, and that's the mistake with the price per square foot.
So this is another curious thing. Maybe you could answer. So I have a house, or I had a house, I sold it, in a neighborhood where you have townhouses and houses mixed, right? All built during the same year. But the price per square foot on the townhouses was higher than the price per square on the single families because they were more sought after.
Okay.
Like people were buying more of the townhouses because they were easier to manage or
Yes.
whatever, versus the houses were sitting in the market longer.
Yes.
So the price per square foot went in the same neighborhood, same amenities, everything, but it was also because historically the demand of the townhouses in that neighborhood was higher.
And that's why, again, we select similar comps. Now, if I want to do price per square foot, I'm going to compare my property to townhouses, not to single family. Even some people they say, oh, should be a single family resident detached, should be more. But
Shit, but
what should or shouldn't, we don't care. We care what data telling us.
yeah,
And now actually, you brought something, and this we run into it a lot. I'm not sure here in Florida if you have a lot of gated community.
yes,
That's also another mistake. Another mistake we see it in the rebuttal of value. They will go to a community, for example, within quarter of mile and select comps, which is yes, it's considered valid comps, but there's something in the appraisal we call it reconciliation of value, and this when the appraiser has to determine which comps are the most solid, consider or the most weight I'm going to give it to those comps. If I have a sales in the same project or the gated community, why should I give the most weight to my comparable to other community? Meaning, in my community, average sales 500,000, and in the other community 520. Why should I say 520, not 500? Because each community is unique, and this is something when it comes to condominium, BUD property, we always give the most weight to property within the same community.
yeah. So I live in a community like that. I live in a PUD, and I do see the difference. And just like literally, it was the same builder.
Yes.
It was a huge community. When the community is a smaller community, and the price variance between mine and the next one is huge.
Absolutely, like in my city, there are two community across the street from each other. I'm not going to say names,
Yeah.
but one of them, one of PRMG branch managers live in one of them. I know it very well. His community sales like at least about 30% higher than literally across the street. We're talking, you just jump from, you cross the street and you are in different for the other community. And for some reason, every buyer loves this community, and it's always been higher.
It's the historical sales are there to support it.
Yes, and the design, the quality of construction, both communities are very similar, but for some reason, people love this community.
Oh man, Emil, I do appreciate you coming and talking to us.
It's always a pleasure.
But I think you should leave us with a little bit something. Talk to me about your app.
Okay, we've been working on this app for the last few years, and we're trying to do an AI intelligence, to estimate a value. It's not, it's considered an AVM, but it's not an AVM. An AVM, you just put an address, will give you just the value. With us, it's gonna give you the whole sales comparison page, which is gonna select based on Fannie Mae guideline how their guideline the appraiser should select the comps, how should adjust for each amenity, and automatically literally within few seconds it's gonna select 4 or 5 comps, and it's going to adjust line per line for you, and it's gonna give you also it's going to to do the reconciliation, like which comps should be giving the most weight. You will see it like in your eyes, like the system will tell you I'm going to give 50% to comparable number one because it's identical, 25% for example, and will give you all the estimated value. And this will happen literally within second. Now we understand there's some property could be upgraded, there's some property, but you will in this situation you will have an option to send it to a reviewer.
That's my favorite part.
And the reviewer can, within like half an hour, can take a look at all those comps, make sure that the system selects the appropriate comps, and if there is like any glitches, for example, like the system, like let's say, our property, there is a pool on it, but the public record did not pick up the pool because it just was built a few months ago. This when the reviewer can add, few amenities to it, do the adjustment on it. So that's, like I believe the value is gonna be very close, what should be the appraised value based on Fannie Mae guideline.
And if not, you can submit it
to a reviewer.
And they can certify.
And that's what we are planning, where the reviewer can certify that the result, the value, it's accurate.
So I want to just kind of explain how important this is, right? Everybody, remember, back in the day, everybody just asked for pencil searches, and now today, no appraiser wants to do a pencil search because they're busy.
Not only this is considered now against compliance.
Okay, see, there you go. Now, so everybody's using AVMs, they're using RPR, they're using all these things to get the value. This is going to be a more accurate for you to get the value when you're either going to list a home, refinance a home, or whatever you need, right? And on top of that, we're going to have a feature and I say we because we're next to get this,
Mm-hmm.
where you can send the request, detail the amenities, and an appraiser is going to review the value and certify if that's accurate or not. Guys,
And one, actually, this app has something that no AVM ever came with it. It has a retro value. And the retro value meaning, like you want to know the value of this house 3 years ago. You can say, I wanted to know the value March 2019. What was the value at this house at this time? And the app is going to give you the value. We don't do it a lot, but this will be good. Like so many real estate agents reach out to us and say, oh, like one of my client, they have like trust property and they want to know the value at the time of the death, what was, the app will give you the retro value.
that's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. Emil,
It's
thank you.
pleasure. It's pleasure, William.
Appreciate